Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I hope everybody's having a wonderful day. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So good to see you. Today is a Saturday, and we are nerding out and talking about our economics 7 days a week here. This is what we do. And I want to say thank you and good morning to everybody who is in this ride with me. Black economics matters, right? Black wealth is important, and we're going to fix it. We're going to fix the black economic issue, and maybe not for the whole community because some people ain't listening, but it's okay. It's all right. Forgive them for they know not what they do. But those that are listening, that's who I want to talk to. So anyway, I hope everybody's feeling well. I hope everybody's feeling good. And I'm sending out a text message now to let everybody know that we're starting now. And give me 1 second. You guys are, most of you on the text list. If you're not, just text the word morning to the number 87948. Text morning to 87948. All right. So there is this player named Arthur Jones who played for the Baltimore Ravens, and he just lost his life this week. Did anybody else see that? I don't know if any football fans are in the building, but he's 39 years old, and I'm telling you, 39 is not as old as you think. I know that people that are in their 20s think that that 39 is grandpa, great grandpa age. You could be a grandpa at 39. I've seen that happen. But 39, in my view, that's kind of when everything's kind of really starting. There are things that are happening in my life now that I didn't even imagine when I was 39, right? So it's kind of unfortunate, to see that happen. And there was a whole conversation about his defibrillator, and so as we kind of discuss, the death of Arthur Jones, the NFL star who won Super Bowls. I think it's important to talk about this from a wealth perspective, right? And not just wealth, but really an investing perspective, right? Because most of the time, when you invest, you're not investing money. You're actually investing something that money can't buy. You're investing your health, or you're investing your mental health, your physical health. You're investing your energy. You're investing your attention, right? So NFL players make a massive investment to be players. The investment is big. In fact, it's so big that it's an investment I personally would not make. I used to dream about this as a little kid, though. I used to want to be, when back in my day, I used to want to be Tony Dorsett for the Dallas Cowboys. That's what I used to want to, if my mama had let me play football and they said, what number do you want? I would have picked 33 because that was his number and I would have wanted to be like him. And when I think when I got to college was when I realized that I had the wrong dream, that sports really wouldn't have been something that I would have enjoyed at that level because the sacrifice is so high. And I happened to help raise a child. I just talked to her this morning, who was the number one high jumper in the United States a few years ago. And I remember her having, like, I as a coach, I was a track coach, and she was one of the greatest athletes I'd ever seen. She had the strength of a grown man when she was 12 years old. She was 6'2", very, very smart. Well, she's 6'2" now. She was almost 6 feet in middle school. She had incredible coordination, a little bit of speed, and just amazing leaping ability. And I'm just sitting here as a guy who loves sports. I'm like, yeah, this is gonna be great. We can go to the Olympics. And I remember, kind of, processing and calming myself down and saying, Boyce, this is not your talent. This is her talent. You should guide her and support her in what's going to help her to have the kind of life she needs to have. You just get caught up in your little sports fantasy and think that she's supposed to live that out for you. So what we did was all I said was I said, look, I just want you to just pick two sports in high school. I said, I guarantee you, any two sports you pick, someone will give you a full scholarship just based on your potential. Because I said, you don't realize how exceptional you are. Like you're amazing, you're a great person, you're super smart, but your athletic ability is probably in the top 1%. So she picked two sports in high school. She did track and she did soccer for a little while. And in the first week of playing soccer, the coach was like, "Oh my God, she could get a scholarship. She'd be the best goalie ever." Because she had these big hands and she was, stuff like that. So anyway, she stuck with track and she got a track scholarship. And that in her junior year, she became the number one high jumper in the United States. But the high jump was not her best event. Actually, she did the heptathlon one time, and I want to say she broke the New York State record or came close to it or something crazy like that. It just was she was just doing it for shits and giggles. That's what kind of an athlete she was. So if you want to know how the story ended, she ended up going to Columbia University. I said, because she wanted to come to Syracuse, and I was like, Syracuse is a nice school, but I think an Ivy League school would probably be better. Because she literally, it's the coolest thing in the world. If anybody's ever seen this, when you're an athlete at that level, everybody wants you. Everybody's sending you letters. Everybody wants to give you a scholarship. It's kind of cool. She sees a stack of letters like this high, and I said, "That's amazing," you know. And I said, you know, if I was you, I'd probably go to a Columbia or Harvard or something, because then you'd have the credentials of that degree behind you for the rest of your life. And then next thing I know, she picked Columbia, and I was like, "Oh, I didn't know you were paying attention." Okay, cool. Yeah, yeah, great. So long story short. I remember I remember watching her experience as an athlete and how, and I was like, okay, so she's living out the dream that I always had. She's out there, you know, getting a chance to be the star that she always, you know, that I always wanted to be. What's that like? And what I found from that experience, as I speak about the death of Arthur Jones, the NFL player, is I said, man, this is not the best. This is not really a great life. And it was stressful. Her schedule was just like click click because she was a star of the track team and the volleyball team. Like she won the Ivy League championship in the high jump like 7 times, like indoor between indoor and outdoor. Every year she'd win it, and it was easy for her because she was really a high level Division One athlete messing around in the Ivy Leagues. It was like literally like competing against third graders for her. And so I just kind of laughed it off. And I remember I was like, I'm not going to put any more pressure on her that she's already feeling, because I'm proud of her for even sticking with this rigorous schedule. Because, you know, all year long, you're watching what you eat, you got all these appointments, you're physically exhausted all the time. You know, and then you got to find a way to study and survive at Columbia University in your spare time. There's a lot of pressure on these athletes. And so my point in bringing all this up is that I really openly wonder if our athletic ability as Black people is a gift or a curse. Maybe it's a gift, but I feel like it's sort of been used, it's turned into a curse to some extent. Do you see what I mean? Like you kind of you have so many of these athletes like the Arthur Joneses of the world. So Arthur Jones goes to the NFL and he gets to play for the Baltimore Ravens and they win a Super Bowl. I mean, what bigger dream can you have than that? I mean, that's amazing, right? You won a Super Bowl. That's the best, absolute best that the NFL can ever offer you. You can't do better than a Super Bowl. Well, now he's dead. He doesn't get to live his 40s. He's going to miss his 50s, his 60s, his 70s, and maybe his 80s, right? So it was the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, let's say at least 4 decades. Let's count the 80s too. That's fine. So he's missing 40 or 50 years of his life because he got the chance to, you know, put on this ring handed to him by some white guy, you know, representing something significant. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that there's a shame in this or that it's what he did was worthless. But I wonder, what do you all think? Do you think that the trade-off is worth it? If you got a chance to make a few $1 million in your in your early to mid 20s, and win a Super Bowl or an NBA championship, but you were making a deal with the devil. So let's say you knew you had to die at 39. How many of you would take that deal? Yes or no? Yes or no? We should even do a poll on this. You answer in the chat. As you answer in the chat, I'm gonna literally do a poll. I'm gonna call it "Deal with the Devil." Okay. And see that I'm probably loading the poll right there. I'm already biasing your answer. But let's see, would you trade or would you die at 39 for a Super Bowl? Let's just say a Super Bowl. Okay. So you know what I mean, right? You're making millions of dollars. You're really famous. You get all the women. You get all the, you know, whatever. Like, or maybe if you're a woman, you get all the whatever you want. I guess I assume women would want all the men, but maybe they don't. Maybe they just want a real good man. I don't know. I'm not a woman. I can't. I'm never going to be transgender or anything, so I can't identify as a woman. All right. So let me launch the poll. So tell me, how many of you would die at 39 if it meant you could win a Super Bowl and make millions of dollars as a young person? Like, so from the age of 20, really, let's say from say 14, because remember these guys are stars. These NFL players are superstars from the time they're in like Pee Wee League. So they get all the accolades, all the, you know, all the teachers don't make them study. They get, you know, they get to wear nice clothes and getting the newspaper and all that. How many of you, anybody? Okay, I'm looking at this. I'm gonna share the results in a minute. I'm gonna end the poll in five, four, three, two, one, and go. All right, so here are the results. 97% of you said no. 3% of you said yes, and I appreciate the honesty. I probably messed it up by biasing the answer by letting you know what I believe. I wouldn't personally do that. But let me ask you this. Let me switch the poll up then. Let's do it again. Let's see if I can do the poll again. All right, and start with nothing. I want to ask you the exact same question now, and I want to ask in a different way though. I want to ask you, would you have taken that deal when you were 18? So I'm going to say, what if you were 18? Let's see. So again, same thing. Deal with the devil. And the devil comes to you. He doesn't come to you as a wise 45, 50, 60, 70-year old. He comes to you as an 18-year-old who has their whole life ahead of them, who cares about fitting in, having clout, being the man, being rich, having what you want, etc. Would you take that deal? And the devil says, "Look, I'm gonna be honest with you. The devil's pretty honest. When the devil shows up, he usually tells you what it is." And so you know what it is, and all this dopamine laced success and power is put right in front of you. How many of you would have taken the deal at 18? So answer me in the poll. I want to see what the results are, because I think this is going to speak to something that I'll share with you in a minute after I see the results. I have a theory, I have a thesis. So let's see. Okay. And by the way, this is all about investing, in case you don't know. We're literally talking about investing. We're literally talking about wealth. Okay. So, all right. So I'm going to go ahead and share the poll. I'm going to end it in three, two, one, and go. All right. Here are the results. All right. 25% of you said you would take the deal. 75% of you said you would not. Okay. So the numbers went up, and that's what I expected, right? We all expected that, right? That an 18-year-old is probably going to surprise make different decisions from a 58-year-old. No doubt. Okay. Here's what I want to get to with that. The reason I asked that question, thought it was interesting, is because the thing about it is that when you talk about investing, most investments you make have nothing to do with money. But they have to do with valuable resources. And so when you're 18, you have your youth, you have all the options in the world. You can be whatever you want to be. You have lots of free time. You have lots of energy, lots of attention. You have lots of things that your potential is through the roof. And I think that what we should probably do as investors, as a community of investors, as a community of people that want to break generational curses, as a community of people that want to better ourselves, is I think we should encourage our young people to really sit down and really think carefully about where they are, like have consciousness about, like, look, I want you're 18. I want you to imagine yourself as a 28-year-old. Imagine yourself as a 38-year-old. Imagine yourself as a 48-year-old. Imagine yourself as a 58-year-old looking back on when you were 18. I want you to, because a lot of times when you're young, you're just there, you're just living, you're just you're unconscious. You're making one decision after another. You're not really thinking too deeply about what this is going to look like when you look back on it 20 years from now. But I can tell you one conversation I had with my dad, it wasn't even a conversation, it was a comment. When I was 17, I remember I was trying to figure out what my next move was going to be. I wasn't the guy that I am now. Now I understand a lot of things I didn't understand then. But I was making my next move. And my next move was sort of built on short-term gratification, short-term security, short-term challenges, right? Like, how do I get $100 so that I can get me some shoes? How do I, when I leave the house, how am I going to have a place to live and some of that? Because my daddy didn't play that whole like live with your parents till you're 30 type thing. We didn't do that. Um, and I remember he said, boy, you better get it together because one day you'll wake up at 35 years old and wonder where your life went. And at that time, at 17, 35 seemed like great grandpa age. Like in my mind, 35 is like, okay, your life is over now. Okay, you've had your best years are behind you. And I remember, but just him saying that, just that one sentence made me say, yeah, I guess when I'm 35, I want to make sure I like the life that I've created for myself. So I better get to it. I better think through the next decision that I make. And when I did get to 35 and beyond, I started to pay attention. I never forgot what my father said. It was one sentence. This is the thing. Like, never underestimate the power of just one little conversation. And I never forgot what he said. And I started to notice in my 30s how many people were in their 30s and they did not like the life that they had in their 30s. They were, it was almost like they didn't know. They were like, how did I get here? Who did this? Who created this life that I'm living right now? I didn't expect to be married to this person and have these kids and live in this house and drive this car and have this job. And what's really interesting is that when you go back and you piece it together, you realize that this life was built like a house, like building a house with a series of steps, and in many cases, a series of very short-sighted, unconscious steps that you built this structure that you now have to live in. And if you didn't sort of consciously think through the structure, then it can end up looking much different from what you expected. It's like the difference between somebody saying, I want to make a painting of a building and planning it out and designing exactly how everything's going to go versus somebody just taking the brush and just being like, right? Sure, the abstract art can be absolutely beautiful, but it's also very chaotic, right? And sometimes our lives can be chaotic because the steps that were taken to build that life were chaotic steps. There wasn't much structure or consciousness in the development of what the next move was going to be. You were playing checkers the whole time and never playing chess. And so you end up with this monstrosity of a life and you have no idea where it came from. How did I end up in this job? Well, I took the job because I needed some extra money, and next thing you know, they asked me to move to California. Then I moved to California. Then I met a girl, and so I got her pregnant, and now I got the kids. I'm married to the girl, and I had this job for 25 years. At that time, I didn't expect to have this job for 25 years. How many times? Give me a yes. How many of you have ever heard people say something like that? Like literally, you put a yes in the chat if you've seen this or had this experience where you start something and you have no expectation that it's gonna be a 20-year, 30-year thing. You just did it because it fit for the moment. You dated that person because they fit for the moment, right? You made that move to California because it fit for the moment. Because I couldn't pay the rent that month, they gave me an extra $500, but they said you got to move to California because the job will pay you an extra $10 an hour. Whatever it is, right? It's always these little things. And I'm gonna tell you, I said, I'll be damned. I started thinking about this a lot. This was the benefit of being a loner. I ain't had no friends in college. I had like one or two, but that was it. Everybody knew me and I knew them, but I had always had this little bubble where I just didn't really connect directly with people. It's probably some weird mental illness or something. But anyway, I remember thinking like, this is interesting. People don't think about their lives. They don't think about how every step fits into the big picture. And if you don't do that, then you can end up with a train wreck because you're making a series of short-term decisions that put you in that where you create this long-term conundrum that's like very confusing for you. Why is that part of the conversation today? Why am I even discussing this? Well, because wealth and investing and everything else is exactly the same way. It's the exact same way. Think about it. I want you to write down on a piece of paper, and we're going to get back to Arthur Jones, the brother who died, because I promise you that that's the starting point. But I really want to make a bigger point. Even though his life, I mean, it's very unfortunate, and it's a very it's a significant issue for him and his family. But also, I want to make the bigger point that fits into what we do every day. Um, I want you to one day sit down and make yourself very depressed. This is a very depressing exercise. I want you to try to see if you can calculate how much income you've had over the last like 15 years. Like I want you to write down, like if you make 60,000 a year, I want you to take 60 and then guess your average income over the last 10 or 15 years and multiply that, right? And look at how much money you've made over the last 10 or 15 years. And then after you see how much money you've made over the last 10 or 15 years, I want you to imagine something like okay, so how much money would I have if I had invested 10% of that money, just 10% of that income, right? So let's say you make 60,000 a year and you make an average of 60,000 a year over say a 20-year period. And 10% of 60,000 is $6,000. And let's say you invested $6,000 a year, which is about $500 a month, and you did that over that 20-year period. You lived your life but you were very conscious about like, okay, this is where I want to be financially 10 years from now, 5 years from now, 20 years from now. Um, if you did that $500 a month, as you know, with our 5 year pledge, you roughly, if you put it in the S&P 500, no investing knowledge. Let's say you just threw it in there and just threw it into a mutual fund, right? That's it. You didn't even think about it. After about 5 years, you'd have about 38,000. After 10 years, you had about somewhere around 100,000. After 20 years, it'd be over $300,000, right? So you'd have $300,000 liquid in some account somewhere, and maybe some property or whatever it is, right? And what happens is a lot of times we'll say, "Dang, I had all this money, and now there's nothing in the bank like saved or stored up." And a lot of times it's because when we're spending money, we're spending it in a very unconscious way. We're thinking about short-term instant gratification, short-term needs. We're in, this sort of survival mode where we maybe perhaps have not taken the time to say, okay, what's required for me to stop just surviving and to start thriving. People that are in struggle mode, that are just in survival mode, have a very hard time making long-term plans. Well, why? Well, because you're distracted by everything short term, right? Everything that's, right here in front of you is kind of requiring your attention. And so this is where there has to be a moment where you kind of take a step back and make that moment for yourself to reflect on that future. And this is something I grapple with every day. I structure my day in a certain way where I don't allow too many distractions. I don't allow my wife, it took me probably 2 years to explain to my wife why, even though we're in the same house, her office is right next to mine. We have a little academic department in our basement. And it took me 2 years to because I think it seemed kind of rude. It took 2 years for her to understand why I have to shut my door and literally did like sort of connect to what I'm doing and not be distracted. I need about 5 or 6 hours to be in the zone so I can get things done because the world is full of distractions. The world is full of all these things that are taking your attention. Oh, and you're putting out little fires. This isn't because my life is chaotic. I have so many people asking for things, wanting things, talking to me about, hey doc, I just want to talk to you about this. Hey boys, can you talk about? Hey, I don't forget that, right? And so you know what I do? I turn off my phone. I don't answer email. I answer email about once a week. Don't email me. I won't see it. I no disrespect. I can't. It's too much. Um, I don't allow any notifications to appear on my phone that make noise. No dings, beeps, buzzes, because social media is designed to manipulate your dopamine and keep you like this scrolling and even the way the algorithm is set up, it's built off of do you know where these social media algorithms do you know what they're built off of? They're built off of gambling addictions. They're built literally off of like how do you train somebody to become an addict, right? And so the thing is, um, it's just one of these things where the world, um, capitalism doesn't do very well when you have a lot of conscious, intelligent people, right? Capitalism doesn't succeed with people that are intelligent and thoughtful and informed and disciplined and all that. It doesn't work very well because you're going to think through your decisions and you won't make the decision that's best for the system. But the reality is that if you're trying to do something like build wealth or build family or just build a life, build a career, whatever it is, you absolutely positively must find some way to step back and be very conscious of what you're building. There's never been in the history of this world, there's never been a great building that was built by a series of random actions. There was never some sort of skyscraper that was built by people just throwing bricks in different directions and grabbing whatever materials they can on the street and just throwing it. That's never happened. Whenever think about it, when they built the Empire State Building, they probably spent weeks or even years, or months, or perhaps even a year or two, designing the damn thing so that it would stand over 100 years. They sat down with the architects and there's a team of them and they drew the diagrams really carefully. They thought about the materials. They looked at the wind resistance and the quality of the soil beneath. And on all kinds of other stuff. I'm not even an architect, but they went through the blueprint carefully before they even laid the first damn brick. And then when they laid the bricks, they laid them out very carefully, very consistently, very strategically. They made sure that they reviewed everything carefully to make sure that this damn thing was going to stand. And next thing you know, they've got a building that's been standing for over 100 years. So I want you to compare. the amount of structure and planning and preparation and consciousness it took to build the Empire State Building. And I want you to compare that to some people's lives. Some people's lives are the exact opposite of that. Some people's lives are like this big bowl of slop where they just threw everything. They were making a meal and they said, "Let me throw some tomatoes in. Then I'm gonna throw in some Skittles, and then I'm gonna throw in I got some dog poop. I'm gonna throw that in there. I got some hamburger meat. Let me toss that in there and some Kool-Aid and pass me the 40 ounce, man. And then you pour that in there and next thing you know, you're eating this nasty, big nasty monstrosity of a meal, and you're like, oh my God, this is disgusting. Who cooked this shit? Hey, who made this? Ugh. Well, you cooked it. You don't remember? But you were cooking drunk. And you were also cooking in a way where you weren't thinking about how one ingredient was going to fit with it. You didn't think about how the Skittles would taste next to the dog crap, right? But you just threw it in there because in the moment it just seemed kind of cool to do. Maybe you were following a trend. Maybe you were responding to a short-term issue. Maybe you were, I don't know. Maybe you just weren't thinking about it, right? That's how that's how the paper got in your food. That's how that's why you have purple ink in your soup, right? You weren't thinking about it, you just threw it in there. And people's lives when they make investments in their lives, and when I'm talking about investing, because the biggest investments I've made in my life have nothing to do with money. I had one guy who was like, you don't know nothing about no finance. I said, well, I have a doctorate in it. Maybe I know a little bit. I probably learned a couple things in a decade of training on this. And he's like, well, show me your investment account. Show me how much money you got. I said, you really think that wealth is solely defined by how much money you have? You think that? You don't understand all the things that God blesses you with that have nothing to do with money. Money is built off this worthless little green piece of paper called a dollar bill that's losing value every year. And I know so many people that have insane amounts of money who have lives that you wouldn't wish on your worst enemy. Every part of their life is falling apart except for their bank account. And so that my first reaction to him was, number one, I'm not going to be out here trying to Instagram flex and show you how much money I got, because I'm much more, I'd like to believe that I, as a human being, am defined by much more than just how much money's in my bank account. I mean, yes, I do have money in my account. Yes, I can go and fly first class anywhere where I want to go. I could probably get a private plane if I wanted to. I could do these things, right? I have the stuff. I have all the stuff. But one of the biggest things to talk about from the very beginning when you talk about money is you got to get past the damn stuff. The stuff ain't, the stuff is level one. That's level. Is that all you, is that how you define the success of a human being? Is and the mental and physical health and the happiness level of a human being is by how much money they have? Oh my God. If you think that how much money you have is the sole determinant of the quality of your life, then I can guarantee you that you are at a very high risk of having a horrible, miserable life. Do you know how many millionaires I know who are drug addicts? Do you know how many wealthy, famous rappers I've known who literally are having anxiety because they might get shot any day of the week? I know a few famous people. Do you know how many people are who are famous and rich and powerful who have STDs that they will never tell you about because they thought all those women was a blessing and it turns out to be a curse? Don't go chasing waterfalls. Please stick to the rivers and the. Remember that song? Yeah, I mean, do you know how many people were like because they forgot something that my friend D1 said, which was that the devil can bless you too. So they took a whole pile of blessings from the devil and they said, "Oh my God, God is blessing me." And D1 is great. D1 said, "I think you on stage and you thanking God for giving you that Grammy for making that album called Die Nigga Die. You done made an album about murdering black people and getting high on drugs and all this other stuff. And you don't understand, you're thanking the wrong person. You need to thank Satan for that award. He gave you that. Give credit where it's due, man." Out here lying. God didn't send you that. That was straight from the devil. And so at the end of the day, when you talk about money, I hope that you understand. most of your investing has nothing to do with money, and money it cannot be the sole determinant of what it means to have a successful life. The reason I want you to have the money though is because I need you to have the money so that you'll understand how to look past the money. Right? I want you to have the money because money fulfills very basic, very primitive needs for food, water, and security that are very important for you to even have the ability to be conscious all the time and to elevate. Almost like a child that goes to school every day and he's hungry. A child that goes to school every day and hasn't had breakfast, he's not capable of learning mathematics and science and everything else because he's hungry. His stomach's growling. Or maybe he's got to go to the bathroom. So you make sure he gets the food and you say, hey, you got to go pee? And you say, yeah, okay, go to the bathroom real quick. You do those things. You got to knock out the basics so you can get to the higher level stuff. Right. So these primitive needs are very important, but they're only important for as long as they're important. And then your goal is to get to the point where those primitive needs are not important anymore. And now you can get to the higher level needs. You can get to the things that really matter. Right. Okay, now we can get to your math assignment. Now we can get to the science and the history and everything else because you went to the bathroom. But the bathroom is not the most important thing in the world. So if the kid is walking around all day saying, yeah, I pee all the time. I love peeing. Let me show you how I pee. Let me show you. I was standing. I was doing this, man. I was bopping it. And then I ate a sandwich. And let me show you. Let me show you how many sandwiches I got to eat I get to eat sandwiches all day. That's a mental illness. When all you're doing is flexing on basic lower dimensional stuff, that shows me that you probably need to talk to a therapist because what's happened is that your deficiency has led you into one dimensional very almost myopic obsessive thinking about that one thing. Like, and this is what happens when we do our research on financial anxiety and stuff like that, is that we find that people who grew up without enough resources, and you went through the horrible pain of wanting things and desiring things and wishing you had nice shoes, wishing you had a Gucci belt like your cousin or whatever. Then what happens is people became sometimes they become fixated. They become locked. They can't go to level two, three, four, five because they're stuck on level one. You can give them $1 billion, and their whole obsession is, well, do I have enough money? Look at how much money I got. And you say, well, you didn't do your homework. Well, it don't matter. Look at how much money I got. More money than you. Well, you're not a good person, but I got money though. You know what I mean? Well, you're not a nice man. Well, that's all right. I'm flexible. Let me show you my bank account. Let me show you my Robin Hood. Right? That's what happens when you are sort of deprived, right? And what I would say is that if you're in that category, I would encourage you to try to think outside of that and understand that money really is a pathway. It's a tool. It's a gateway. It's a gateway to allow you to get to actually living life. It was a capitalist society that decided that you should be shaped and determined, and that your actions and outcomes and possibilities and realities should be solely defined by how much money you have or you don't have. This constant obsessive quest and searching for resources should not be something that defines your entire life. And so that's why we talk about money. As I just want you to get past it. Let's go past first grade so we can get to second, third, and fourth grade. Now that you got the money, what you gonna do with the money? Now that money's not an issue, what are you doing with your kids? What are you doing with your health? What are you doing with your relationships? What are you doing for the community? So keep that in mind. There's another point I want to make on that, but I'm not going to belabor that. I'm going to move on. So here's where I want to circle back to this NFL player, Arthur Jones, from the Ravens, who just died at 39 years old. There are studies that show that men who are young and who are on athletic teams, they are willing to make insanely large sacrifices for short-term gratification. When you're playing for the Ravens, you're the man. Everybody loves you. Everybody thinks you're great, and you're seeking glory, and you're not really thinking about how your quest for glory in the short term is going to impact not just the rest of your life, but how that's going to impact the lives of the people that care about you. You're not thinking about how that's going to impact your spouse when maybe she has to change your diaper when you're 45 years old. You're not thinking about how that's going to affect your kids when you can't remember their names and they're still in elementary school 10, 15 years later. I'm not saying this happened to him, but most studies show that the overwhelming majority of NFL athletes have significant brain damage. That's what the studies show. When they get done, I think the numbers around 91% of them have brain damage. If you watched that documentary, I watched a documentary about the Dallas Cowboys called "A Gambler." It was what was it? I think it was the subtitle was "A Gambler and Its Cowboys," but I forgot. I think it was called America's Team. That's right. It was on Netflix. It was really good, and I was always a Cowboys fan, so I really enjoyed it. And I remember when Troy Aikman spoke. Troy Aikman was the quarterback of the Cowboys at that time, and he talked about one of the biggest games of his career, and he said, "I don't remember anything about that game." He said, I watched replays. It's like watching somebody else play the game. That's not normal. That's not normal to go through something that significant and say, I don't have any recollection at all of that game. And when I looked in his eyes, I really saw that there's probably more to it than what he was talking about, right? I felt like, okay, you're just giving us that piece of information, but what else is happening with you? What is interesting to me, and again, I'm not even sure why Arthur Jones died. They mentioned something about a defibrillator possibly, and again, that's I think that's connected to like a heart condition, like if your heart suddenly stops. And I'm not sure, but I got it. I only saw one picture of him. It looked like he was kind of a bigger guy, but I could be wrong on that, right? So if I say anything that's incorrect, just please correct me. But anyway, so they were talking about that, but I don't know what that if that was what happened, but I would be willing to bet that whatever happened when he was playing sports may have played some role in the early death. Why is that? Well, because the average lifespan of an NFL player is, I think the average NFL player dies before 60. I believe that's what the study said that I just saw. And so the question then becomes, how important is it to achieve short-term glory in your 20s if that means you're going to have long-term sacrifice, long-term pain, perhaps an early death? That's why I asked you all that question in the beginning, the deal with the devil. I said, when you were 18, if somebody said you're going to have all the glory that you want, you're going to have all the money, all the fame, all the success, but you're going to have that till you're about 28 years old. After that, you're going to have a rough life and you're going to die at the age of 39. How many of you would take that deal? And I'm gonna be honest with you. Um, I would have took the deal at 18. I kid you not. I remember watching, this is how far back it goes for me. Anybody remember Ben Johnson in the 1988 Olympics when he ran and they found out he was doped up like a horse. Everybody knew he was on steroids. I mean, this guy's eyes were yellow and everything, and he got all these big muscles, and he had all the signs of somebody that was using drugs. Like, and also his times got really fast. Like he improved dramatically, right? And that's why Carl Lewis, I think, hated on him so much because Carl Lewis was like, this guy's not as talented as me. I used to kick his butt. And just for the record, honestly, I think there was something going on with FloJo too, but people don't want to believe that. But yes, it happens all throughout the sport though. Fred Curley, if you're interested in track and field, go listen to what Fred Curley has been saying about doping in sports. Human beings really aren't supposed to be able to run that fast, to be honest with you. So it's an unfortunate game they have to play where they have to pretend like they're absolutely taking no performance enhancing drugs, but I believe a lot of them do. But I remember when Ben Johnson got busted, and Ben Johnson was my favorite sprinter. In my head, how you're a kid, you kind of imagine yourself being a certain person, or if you play football with little boys, they'll pretend to be their favorite player. Ben Johnson was like my favorite player in track and field, and I used to wish I had big muscles like him. I had some muscles. I was kind of stockly built. They recruited me for the football team. I just didn't want to play football at that time. But anyway, I remember if somebody had given me access. If somebody has said, "Hey, here's a shot you can take, and after you get this shot, you're going to be the fastest kid in the entire state of Kentucky." Oh, I would have took it in a second. I would have been like, "Okay, let me do it." Because in my mind, what will be happening, and there's an economic concept called hyperbolic discounting. And hyperbolic discounting basically means that for many of us, especially young people whose brains are not fully developed, all that really matters is the short term. You ain't even thinking about the long term, right? Like really, when you sit down with a 16-year-old and you're talking to them about how they can have a great life at the age of 40, you might as well be talking Chinese. They're like, well, but how can I get that girl to go with me to the prom? Anybody else remember those days, right? And it's hard. It's really hard. Like I would talk to our 14-year-old. I was driving her to school for homecoming or whatever, and I was like, you do know that like 3 years after high school, nobody's gonna care about what happened in high school. High school won't matter when you're 20 years old. But even that statement was hard for her to process because at 14 or 15, she's 15, all the studies show that peer pressure is really heavy on them. And so what a lot of the research says is that for young people, and let's talk specifically about, say, a young man who is a great athlete, what matters to him is not what's going to happen long term. It is the glory of winning a championship. It is the respect he gets by being loyal to his teammates. Um, it's the short term dopamine laced rewards you receive for accomplishment. Right, the winner of the sporting event, he's going to get the girl, he's going to get the money, he's going to get the fame, he's going to get the power. These are the things that men will die for, the glory, all these things. A lot of men will die before they give up respect. You did so that's why I would say to ladies, if you're listening, if you care what I think, a lot of men I know would rather have respect than even love. Love is important, but I don't know if a lot of guys who would rather have love than love from a disrespectful woman, right? So I think the respect should come before the love. If you give the respect first and then the love second, that does pretty well. But if you come disrespectful, I think a lot of men, there you go. Jen says it, death before dishonor. I'll tell you the truth. I actually kind of always felt that way, right? Like I don't know why. It's just mean like no, I'm not no punk. You're gonna have to kill me first, right? And so really, this is what you're up against when you're talking to a young 20-year-old superstar athlete, high confidence, high testosterone, about the long-term consequences of what they're doing. It's really hard for them to find that balance sometimes. But I think that these conversations still matter though, because a lot of these guys are very intelligent. And you have there was a guy named Robert Smith who played for the Minnesota Vikings. He went to Ohio State, my alma mater, and that's how I know about him. And but he was so good. He was great, and he did something really weird. He retired at like 27 or 28 years old. And I suspect that the reason he retired was because he said, "You're not going to ruin the rest of my life. I want to enjoy this. I want to use my talent and be great at this for a while, but I'm going to quit before this all sinks in because I'm not trying to be miserable for the rest of my life because I made this massive sacrifice for the white people who own this football team." Jim Brown, thank you. Jim Brown's another. Jim Brown, and you know what? Here's what it is. Jim Brown, thank you for mentioning Jim Brown, Christian, because Jim Brown to me is a powerful example of that sort of consciousness. Because Jim Brown, if you know anything about football, let me just say this, and Jim Brown, he's next to my heart, not just because he's a great black man, but also he was at Syracuse where I taught. I was on the faculty there for 12 years. And they don't even talk about Jim Brown. They kind of buried him in history because Jim Brown was he was a radical black man. He spoke up about race and stuff like that, and they didn't like that very much. But anyway, he was a guy that went to the NFL and was the most dominant player in the entire league. In fact, he was so good in college, he was so good at lacrosse, they changed the rules. Lacrosse, he was that was there you go, Kendall. Lacrosse was his best sport. And he was so good that they literally changed the lacrosse rules because they couldn't take the ball away from him or something. So, but he was great at track, he was great at football, he was great at lacrosse. He was just a great, he was like a lot of black men in the sense that we have athletic gifts. Now he was special, of course, but there are millions of black men that have amazing athletic ability. And the reason, and so here's what happened with Jim. So he goes to the NFL. He plays for about 8 years or so, and he got an interest in acting. He wanted to do something different. And I think at some point it came down to the team saying to him, if you don't show up for training camp, then you're going to be off the team or something. So he just went ahead and retired early. And the reason that he's an example of consciousness and how this plays a role in your decision making is that Jim Brown was very clear to the world that he wasn't a one-dimensional Negro. He made it clear, which and this does not fit well with capitalist systems or oppressive systems or racist systems. Capitalist racist oppression wants your son to just be a one-dimensional cartoon character. Capitalism works best at trapping people when they have no other options. When you have no options, and also your identity, and it's not even about how many options you actually have, it's how many options you believe you have. So it's part of it is real entrapment, but part of it is just psychological. So if I take your black son, here's what I'm getting at. If somebody takes your valuable black son, this multi-million dollar asset that he is, and they convince him early that, boy, you ain't nothing but a football player. You can't read, you can't write, you can't do math, because I'm gonna make sure you don't get a good education. You don't know nothing about your people. You ain't never learned no black history. So you think black history started in, 2010, or you think black culture is your favorite rapper, and you aren't convinced that you can do anything else, you can't make money anywhere else, you don't belong anywhere else, then I got you right where I want you. That's how pimps operate. Pimps want you to believe that they are your Lord and Savior and your salvation. It's like your dream is God, and I'm Jesus, and you got to go through Jesus to get to God. I'm the only pathway to you having the thing that you want in life. For you to you can't make money nowhere else. You can't have success nowhere else. You can't exist anywhere else. Where are you going to go? If I don't want you, who will? What does that sound like? If I don't want you, nobody will. What does that sound like to y'all? Have you ever heard somebody act like that? What is that? Where do you hear people talk like that? In abusive relationships. Abusive relationships. That would define the economic relationship between the black man and the American economy. It's like, you little bitch, if I don't want you, nobody will. If I fire you, then you're gonna be blackballed from the industry. So you can't go anywhere else. The NFL, we're a cartel. We done got together with all the team owners, and we've already got together and made a plan. We're structured in our thinking. Our consciousness is very high because we all got together before we even brought y'all into the cage to make sure that we were going to control the animals that are in the cage. So if I am the owner of the Dallas Cowboys and you insult me or you walk away from the offer I make for you, then I'm going to get on the phone with my buddy at the Baltimore Ravens or and my other buddy at the Cleveland Browns, and I'm going to say, no, 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 this guy's trouble. Don't bring him to the team. Don't give him an opportunity, and then you'll be locked out. I mean, Shador Sanders. That's what they did. They just that was the cartel working together. They're the mafia basically. And so why is how's but here's the thing about Shador Sanders, Deion's son. He's going to be successful though, no matter what. And the reason he's going to be successful, you know what? You know why Shador is going to succeed no matter what? He's got a smart father. He's got a smart family. If Shador stopped playing football tomorrow, not only would he be wealthy, but he'd be successful at something else. Because if you look at his father and listen to the way his father talks, his father doesn't teach players just to be great athletes, and he was the greatest among them. I have one jersey on my wall, and that is number 21 from the Dallas Cowboys. It's an autographed jersey from Deion Sanders. That's the only jersey I put on my wall. I'm not even a jersey on the wall kind of guy, but Deion was so great that when I had a chance to get an autographed Deion Sanders jersey, I jumped at that and I bought it because that man's amazing. Bo Jackson is probably the other one that's up there. And so, but here's the thing that I love about Dion is Dion, and I've never I don't agree with everything with Dion. I wanted him to stay at Jackson State. That's so, and people gave me pushback for that, but I don't care. I like the HBCUs. I want to see our people benefit the most from our talent. That's my bias. However, when I hear him talk and he says, my goal is not just to make them great athletes, I want to make them great men. I said, okay, that's what the black community needs. And when he has hard conversations about the importance of fatherhood and things like that, well, that's what the black community needs. And so Shador Sanders is going to be successful because he has parents, and his mother, I'm sure, played a great role in this too. He has parents that trained him to understand. Look, you ain't no one dimensional Negro. You're not just a football player. You are a great man. And a great man can be successful anywhere. A great man is like currency that has value everywhere it goes, right? A great man, it's like a Christmas gift, right? Like sometimes for Christmas, people will buy gift cards where they say this will give you $50 if you go to Starbucks. So if you can get $50, but you got to go to Starbucks. Can't go nowhere else. If you show up with the Starbucks gift card at McDonald's, they're going to send you away because this gift card has no value at McDonald's. It only has value at Starbucks. A long time ago, I was like, that's weird. I don't. So I never give gift cards to anybody. Like, why would I spend $50 just so you can only spend the $50 at Starbucks? No, I'm gonna give you the best gift card known to man. You know what that gift card looks like? Hold on, let me see. You know the best gift card in the world that works so much better, looks like this. This is the best gift card ever. And I give them everywhere, and I love them because I don't got to go buy them. I don't have to go through any process. It's easy for me. And you can use it anywhere. You could use it at Starbucks, McDonald's, anywhere. So we need to turn our black boys into money. That's what I'm saying. We need them to understand, and our girls too. We need them to understand that nobody, no institution, no system should ever have the right to tell you that you're only valuable in this particular context, but you have no value anywhere else. Hard work is universal. Talent, charisma, a winning spirit is universal. Discipline and dedication and consistency are universal. They are valuable everywhere. Every single piece of success I've had in any aspect of my life, a lot of that really actually came from playing sports. I was not as great of an athlete as Shador or Dion, but everything I learned from sports, it applies to life. Sports teaches you how to set a goal. Well, that matters. I set goals every day. Sports teaches you how to get up every day and work hard for something. Well, that I do that every day. I get up at 5 a.m. and I go until midnight. Sports teaches you how to come back from a loss, how to be a good loser and a good winner. Well, I lose all the time, so I need that. I have to draw on that. There's so many things you get from sports. So why in the hell, how in the hell is it that we would ever have black boys who believe like all I can ever do is play football? That's a trick. That's a lie straight from the depths of hell. And what's crazy about it in sports is that you get so many of these deals with the devil, and a lot of times when you really look into it, like I remember in college, I remember when Antoine Walker was on campus with me, and people knew that boy couldn't read very well. And nobody loved him enough to say, hey, look, this basketball thing may not last forever. This may not work out. We got to get you some education too. We got to get you some other ways to be successful, right? And that didn't happen. And so when he got money, when he got all that money, $100 million, he didn't know what to do with it. He did very bad things with that money. But if he'd had one person in his ear, like even myself at that time, I'd have been I probably knew more about finance at the age of 26 than most people learn their whole life. I was working on my PhD. If I sat down and talked to him about a couple of things to do with that money, there's no way he would have went broke. He would have ended his career with more money than he earned throughout the career. Like literally, like it would have been easy. It would have been a 10-minute conversation. And so to me, I think that we have to really think about these opportunities where the wealth gets lost. Or if you look at this guy that just died from the Ravens, he's 39, man. I mean, there's so much of your life left to live at the age of 39. And actually, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna share some stats on this that I hope you'll consider as you decide whether to send your son back to football practice. I'm not telling you not to. I know a lot of you are football fans. I'm a football fan. I totally get it. But I think that as a community, we have to have these conversations in an honest way so we at least know what choice we're making instead of just doing whatever, the TV tells us to do or whatever we think is the traditional pathway to black success. I believe every one of those boys that ever plays any sport should be trained one on how to start a business by the age of 12. Two, they should all be invested in the stock market. Three, they should all understand the basics of owning real estate and why ownership is better than renting. And then four, they should have the basics of reading, writing, and arithmetic. My grandmother called them the three R's: reading, writing, arithmetic. The ability to share your ideas, the ability to absorb ideas, and the ability to do calculations. You can't, how the hell are you going to make money when you can't even count money? Seriously, how do we? I hear you hear rappers are like, "Get money, I'm gonna get money, I'm getting money." Man, they'll do videos and they'll be showing all this fake money in the video. It's like, but you talking about money, but you can't even count, man. How you going? I can't even do a business deal with you because if I tell you that you're gonna get 60% of the money, you don't know what 60% is. So you're kind of eliminated from the game before the game even begins. You're gonna get exploited because capitalism is the most brutal game that you're going to run into. It's sharks out here, man. And you see it happen all the time. What's the first thing that happens when an athlete gets drafted into the NFL, the NBA? There's some little short white guy, maybe wearing a yarmulke, right, who's like representing him. And he didn't grow up with hoop dreams. He didn't grow up thinking he's going to be the next LeBron. He's too short. He ain't got no talent. You know his superpower is that his daddy and his mother were talking to him about economics when he was 2. His superpower is that he went to Harvard Law School and they taught him how to structure the business deal in your favor. His talent is that he's got a whole community behind him that's not waiting on him to sign an NBA contract. They're looking at him and saying, we're hungry. We want to eat. Can you bring us some Negroes to feast upon? Because we know those people are not prepared financially. They're not embracing the economics the way that they should, but we already have. So just bring them by. We're gonna cut him open like we're gonna roast him over on a little stick and have him twirling like a little pig, and we all gonna cut off a little piece, and the whole hood's gonna break off a piece of this big delicious 6'5", 250-pound Negro who's gonna go make $100 million and give 80 million of that 100 million to us. That's what's happening, and I'm not saying that it makes them bad people. I'm saying it means that they're approaching the game in a completely different way. And so if you're the young guy and you're distracted by the booty and the bling and the street cred and all that stuff, you've got the vulture standing next to you, and all they're looking at is the money. They're just waiting for the money to drop out of your pocket. They're waiting for you to not be conscious. They're waiting for you to not be paying attention. And when you're looking away and you're like, "Ooh, did you see that girl's ass?" or whatever it is that the guys might do, right? They're reaching in your pocket and pulling money out. I had I'll say this, and I'll be done on this point. There was a guy from the Utah Jazz that hosted a Black Wealth event out in Oklahoma City, and it was a few years ago, and I was really impressed with this guy. He paid my speaking fee for me to come out. He invited some other people. That was where I met that lady Angela Rye from CNN. She wasn't very nice. I didn't like her. I said, "Gosh, you're kind of a mean lady." And but anyway, I had a really good time, and I remember I sat down with him, and he told me that he said, yeah, when I signed my contract to have somebody represent me or whatever, they had a lot of fine print, a lot of little fees in there, like where they were going to make sure they got paid regardless. Even if I didn't make money from the investment, they were going to make money no matter what. And he said that they were really surprised that I went through. And I was like, I'm not paying this fee. I'm not paying this one. I'm not paying this one. He said they thought I wouldn't be paying attention. And I remember the guy. He was very nice. He was really tall, like 7 feet tall. And I don't remember his name though. But we ate breakfast together, and I was really impressed. And so, really, consciousness. That's what he was talking about was consciousness, awareness. Like I know what's going on. I know what you're doing. Yeah, yeah. Remember that song, right? You just kind of have to sort of have this. And I think that in a world full of distractions, you have to be conscious of your level of consciousness. You have to consciously pursue consciousness. You have to consciously say, I want to be more conscious. So that might mean going and sitting on the porch and just thinking about your life. Maybe that would be a fun thing to do. Go through each decade and just think about choices, think about uh, outcomes, and then go through the rest of your life. And then imagine what you need those outcomes to be. And then imagine after your life and visualize that. Try to visualize it. Try to visualize the 3-year-old as a 43-year-old and looking back on what you did way back in 2025, and that'll always give you a different perspective. And I wish I could encourage young athletes to do the same because I think that unfortunately, if they did, they might reconsider some of the moves that they're making in their early 20s. But at the same time, it could at least prepare them for those long-term investments. Almost everything you do is a long-term investment, whether you believe it is or not. Did you catch that? Did you hear what I said? Almost every single thing you do is a long-term investment, whether you believe it is or not. Everything you do, every little thing, big thing, whatever, you're going to look back in 20 years and it's going to have some impact. Your life is impacted by what you do and what you choose not to do. So I would approach every decision as if it's a long-term investment. And then what that'll do is that just that little act alone will put you so far ahead of everybody else. And again, I just really say this as a guy who I didn't, my big concern was because I saw so many black men ahead of me ruin their lives and they had a big pile of regrets and they had no receipts of success, some of them, very few receipts of success, but lots of receipts of regrets. And I remember just saying, gosh, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to end up like that. So, so when I got to be 35 or 40, it wasn't like I woke up and was living a life that I didn't anticipate. Everything that I was experiencing was like, yeah, I know how we got here. Right? I know exactly how we got here. And in areas where I didn't know how we got here, I had to sit down and say, how did we get here? How did this happen? right? Oh, I get it. I get it. Oh, I'm a sucker for women who well, it might be something like that, right? We all have those deficiencies, and you have to know what those are, and that'll help you make more conscious, intelligent investing choices. And if you notice, I really didn't talk much about investing money. Sometimes I want to talk about investments that are more valuable than money because the biggest thing I want you to understand is I need you to stop thinking that you're broke because you don't have any cash. Not having money, some of you have no money and you're the richest person in this room. And some of you have lots of money and you might actually be broke and not even know it. So keep that in mind. Okay. All right. So let me mention really quickly, if you want to get notifications when we do class every morning, you could text the word morning to the number 87948. Just text morning to the phone number 87948. And also, let me see here. The other thing I wanted to mention here too is if you want to go and get a copy of my book, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power, you can go to drboycebooks.com. And here's an ebook actually that we have on how to open up your first brokerage account. As you guys know, again, sometimes I like to go outside of the money when I talk about investing because all the principles are the same, believe it or not. All the theories fit, but I like talking about life because it's a little less intimidating than money. But you need to go make the money. So if you haven't opened a brokerage account, here's a little short ebook I put together that you can take a look at inside our Black Wealth Mastery store that basically will take you through the steps of opening your first brokerage account. So you can either use it for yourself or share it with someone in your family. I'm gonna put this link in the chat if you want to take a look at that. And also yesterday we had a meeting for our stock options trading. So if you want to join us for the next one, just go to drboyceprime.com. That's drboyceprime.com. I'm still working on that app on how to calculate income from stock options. I thought I had it right, and I pulled it out and I tested it right in front of you, and it wasn't doing what I wanted it to do. So I'm going to go back and get that fixed. So I'm working with the team to get that fixed. So anyway, have a great day, everybody. God bless you. Thank you so much for listening. It's an honor to talk to you every day, and I hope that the conversations we have are going to benefit you and your family. I really want you to win, and not only do I want you to win, but I know we can win. I just kind of think I don't I, every day I'm angry, I'm annoyed by this idea that black people are just kind of the losers of the earth. Like it's like nah, that ain't. And maybe I was living in a previous life where we were kings and winning, and I'm coming back to this life and saying, no, hell no. We're going back to the original. We're going back to what we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be on top. We're supposed to be on top in education. We're supposed to be on top when it comes to economics. We're supposed to be on top when it comes to strategy, and we're gonna be on top, right? And I want you to believe that. I want you to buy into that. And so, if you want to know what energy makes me get up every single day, 7 days a week to do this, it's because we're gonna get there. I'm gonna make sure if I'm not there with you to see it, I want to make sure that I lay it down as much as possible so that when I'm gone it's going to keep going, except it's going to be tenfold. Like I think the energy will be 100 times stronger after I'm gone because so many of you are going to do it so much better than me. Your kids are going to do it better than me, right? The community, all of us, collective consciousness, right? That's going to do it so much bigger and better than one person ever could. So maybe I'm part of the spark. Dr. Claude Anderson, people like that, they're a bigger spark than me, but maybe we're part of the spark. But I really think 10, 20 years from now, it's going to be a forest fire, right? So let's go spark that damn forest fire, black excellence, black power, black wealth, black success, and make that our standard. Make that our freaking standard, okay? Now, again, someone asked me to repeat the text number. It's 87948. So if you text the word morning to the number 87948, I will send you an invitation. You can join us. And also, we do Powernomics training for free in the Black Business School every Wednesday. So we got a lot of stuff that you can participate in. All right, so have a good day, everybody. God bless.